If you're planning a move to Alaska, chances are that you're going to need to have a job when you arrive in the state. And if you're like myself and you only recently started looking at those want ads, you might be surprised by some of the requirements of obtaining a job here. And so today I want to go over with you some of the things that I've discovered in my recent job search, and hopefully these will make your job search easier and more successful. My name's Alone, and I live in a remote cabin in Alaska. And up until a week ago, I was employed through a company back in Colorado. But now that that employment has come to an end, I have found myself perusing those want ads like you might be. And so today I'm going to cover with you some of the things that I've learned in just the last week about what it's really like to apply for a job here in the state.
Alaska is known for its stunning natural beauty, including towering mountains, glaciers, fjords, and national parks. Many visitors come to Alaska to experience the unique landscape and wildlife. It is a popular destination for outdoor enthusiasts, offering activities like hiking, fishing, kayaking, and wildlife viewing, such as seeing a bear in its natural habitat or whale watching. Many visitors come to Alaska aboard a cruise ship and only get to see the coastline, never stepping foot into the interior of this vast state. Alaska offers many unique experiences that few other destinations in the world offer, such as dog sledding, glacier hikes, the chance to see the northern lights, or opportunities to learn firsthand about Alaska's rich and diverse cultural heritage with many native communities and traditions that are still practiced today. Each year, a few million people visit Alaska, and many, including those that have never visited the state, decide to move to or work in Alaska. Moving to Alaska requires a major commitment, and Alaska's beauty draws people in from all over the world and from all types of backgrounds. Alaska is often referred to as the last frontier because it is the largest and the least densely populated state in the United States, with the vast stretches of wilderness and remote areas that remain largely untouched by human development. It's home to some of the most rugged and challenging terrain on Earth, including towering mountain ranges, massive glaciers, and vast stretches of tundra and forest. Alaska is also known for its harsh climate with long, cold winters and short, mild summers. Despite these challenges, Alaska has a strong and vibrant economy, driven by industries such as oil and gas, fishing, and tourism. For many people, Alaska represents a sense of adventure and a desire to explore the unknown. The state offers a unique way of life that is rooted in its natural beauty, rugged wilderness, and close-knit communities. Living in Alaska requires a certain level of self-sufficiency and resourcefulness, and residents must be prepared to face challenges of living in such a remote and challenging environment. But because of this immense draw and the extreme nature of Alaska, employers are not willing to hire just a warm body to fill a position. They require a lot up front and even more after you're hired.
Like anywhere, finding a job in Alaska can be difficult based upon your own skill set, experience, or the industry in which you're seeking employment. But it goes without saying that Alaska has a unique job market because it is widely based upon its geography, climate, and natural resources. This is why industries like oil and gas, mining, fishing, and tourism make up a large portion of Alaska's job market. Additionally, Alaska's population is relatively small. So this means that there are potentially going to be fewer job opportunities altogether. But this does mean that there will also be fewer job seekers, and this could work in your favor. Like any state, Alaska's job market can fluctuate depending upon economic conditions and industry demand. Some industries, such as tourism, may have more job opportunities than others. However, tourism in the state typically is not going to hire the vast majority of its employees for year-round work. It's going to be seasonal work that can last as little as 2 months or as long as 5 to 6 months. Certain industries in Alaska are going to require that you have years of experience, certain skill sets, as well as certifications. These industries can include everything from being a food handler to the mining industry to working on a commercial fishing boat. And you might be surprised as to what some of these requirements or certifications are. Now, keep in mind that just because this seasonal work can be for short periods of time, sometimes those positions pay quite well because you might be required to have several certifications or licenses in order to perform the work that's being offered. For example, I saw a position for a tour guide that was required to have a CDL with specific endorsements, be a licensed boat captain, as well as clean kennels. Some industries in Alaska, such as commercial fishing and aviation, are heavily regulated by federal and state agencies. Certifications may be required by those agencies in order for businesses to operate legally. Some employers require that you have years of experience just to get an entry-level position here in Alaska, while others are going to require that you have such specific experience to the position to which you're applying. Employers who are seeking security officers are looking for individuals who have years of experience as a former military MP or police officer. If you are a roustabout and you're looking to get a job up at Prudhoe Bay or Dead Horse, if you have 5 years minimum experience working up there on the north slope of Alaska, you would get preferential treatment over somebody who might have been a roustabout in North Dakota or Colorado. If you're going to be working in Alaska as, say, a waiter or even as a steward on the Alaska Marine Highway System, you would be required to have a food handler's card and possibly an alcohol handler's card as well. It is important to note that in the municipality of Anchorage, they do not recognize the food handler or alcohol handler's cards that are issued by the state, and therefore you will have to apply for one through their municipality. Going back to the one that is issued by the state, luckily the tests are administered online. You can even practice the questions before taking it. The test at the time of filming this video costs $10 and it consists of 20 questions, of which you have to get 15 correct in order to get your card. And if I haven't already mentioned it, the card lasts for 1 year before expiring. Some employers are going to require that you have DOT and IATA hazmat certifications that would allow you to ship dangerous goods or hazardous materials both domestically and internationally. This course can also be taken online, however, it is quite costly, averaging at about $600. In addition to this, many employers in Alaska are going to require that you have basic first aid, CPR, and possibly AED training. There are many entry-level positions that are requiring anything from a bachelor's to a master's degree. Some employers are going to require that you have lived in Alaska for a minimum of 1 year or at least made it through one entire winter here before they would consider your application. And that means that you should also have your Alaska residency established within at least 30 days of arriving in Alaska. I have a video, which I'll link at the end of this one, which explains what it takes to get set up as a resident in the state of Alaska and some things that you should be aware of. I'm sure we're all familiar with having to provide names and numbers as references. Here in Alaska, they are going to require a minimum of 3, and it is not a formality because they will be contacted. Additionally, your school transcripts and your driving record are going to be requested, and those need to be either in a sealed envelope from the originator, or they need to be in a non-editable online document. Just as it is elsewhere in the nation, Alaska employers require drug screening. And even though marijuana is legal in the state, many employers will not hire you if you are found to have that in your system. And part of this is because a lot of these jobs require that you meet OSHA standards or because they're federally funded. And speaking of state and federal funding, a lot of the jobs here are government related jobs. And if you're looking at applying for, say, the Alaska Marine Highway System, some of those positions do require that you are a licensed merchant marine. Many employers will reimburse you for the cost of any training, certificates, licensing, or a physical if required if you are offered a job with them. In addition to this, many employers will also pay to relocate you to Alaska. Depending upon the job and location in Alaska, you might be required to have experience living in a remote or isolated area, such as on a fishing vessel or reporting to a small Alaska village. If you accept a remote position in Alaska, your employer will typically fly you to the job site, as much of Alaska cannot be accessed by roads. Oftentimes, these flights are going to come out of either Anchorage or Fairbanks. Once you're at your remote location, most often you will find that the employer provides housing, though this is not always the case. Sometimes the housing is provided to you free of charge, other times it comes at a nominal cost, and sometimes you're required to obtain your own housing in these communities, which you can find through local community boards. You also might find that the housing that you're being offered is going to be dormitory style, where it's a large building with several different living quarters, where you might be sharing those living quarters with anywhere from 2 to upwards of 12 or more individuals. Other times it might be a single room that you're offered where you share it with one other roommate, or it might be a house or a duplex that you share with a workmate who works on a rotating schedule with you. So you might only be sharing your living quarters with them for a short period of time during your work stint. These work stints are actually called hitches, and they run typically for anywhere from 2 to 12 weeks at a time. Most commonly, though, you're going to be working 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off. When your hitch has come to an end, then your employer will fly you back to the airport where they originally picked you up at, and then you'll need to have your own transportation to take you back to your primary residence in Alaska that you pay for and provide yourself. Oftentimes, food is included in these remote work camps. However, that is not always the case. Sometimes you'll get a per diem that will allow you to purchase food in the community, though the foods in these remote communities can be quite expensive because, as I mentioned before, much of Alaska is not accessible by road, and so these remote villages are having to fly in their food, and it does come at a premium. If you are bringing your own food into the work camp or work site, then you'll need to check with your employer or the airline that they're utilizing to find out what the weight limits are or the number of containers that you can bring. The cost of transporting your food on the airline to your remote job site may not be covered by your employer. If it is, it probably won't be covered up front, and you will traditionally see a reimbursement upon your next paycheck. Oftentimes, too, these remote villages are what's called a dry village, meaning that you're not allowed to bring any alcohol and definitely no drugs into those communities. For jobs that involve working with Alaska's native communities or in small villages, employers may require knowledge about the rural community and their traditions. This can also include the ability to speak on a conversational level with the Alaska natives in their native languages. Because of Alaska's cold winters and unexpected weather patterns, you can be expected to work in cold, snowy, or icy conditions. For the types of jobs that I've been highlighting in today's video, you would be required to work 6 days a week. It doesn't matter whether you're an employee of the tourism industry or you're working on one of the mines up on the northern slope. And if you're planning on working on the fish processing vessel, they not only work 6 days a week, but they work 2 8-hour shifts in a 24-hour period with 2 4-hour breaks in between. The labor laws in Alaska state that if you work anything above 8 hours in a 24-hour period, those additional hours are to be paid at time and a half. So that second shift could actually wind up putting a lot of money in your pocket. If you're working at one of the mines or in one of the remote Alaska villages, not only will you be working 6 days a week, but your shifts are typically going to be 10-hour shifts. So the first 8 hours would be paid at straight time, and the last 2 would be paid at time and a half. But you might also be entitled to other pay benefits such as fringe pay. And as I mentioned earlier, you might get a per diem added to your paycheck that would allow you to have some spending money so you could go eat out at one of the restaurants or afford to buy the groceries there in town, since you would be there again for a 2 to 3 week hitch. If you need your employer to provide you with health insurance, you'll probably want to seek out year-round employment as opposed to seasonal employment. Your health and wellness, as well as your mental health, are things that you should take into consideration when planning a move to Alaska. Keep in mind that the summers here are very short, and the midnight sun makes it difficult for some people to adjust to a sleep pattern. In the winter months, which last about 8 to 9 months, the days are very short, very cold, and very dark, and this can lead to depression. However, outside of health insurance, there are other benefits to working in Alaska. And some of these might include that your employer might allow you additional time off during peak fishing or hunting season, and they might provide you with discounts to other outdoor activities. One other consideration about working in Alaska is that there is no state income tax. And in many areas of Alaska, there's no sales tax either. So this means that your dollar will go farther, except for the fact that the cost of living in Alaska can be rather high compared to other parts of the country, and that can take some getting used to. I should mention that the research I did today came from perusing the job sites on Indeed, Jobs USA, private business sites, as well as Coolworks, which is a site that does provide listings for seasonal work. And that pretty much sums up the video today. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that you will remember to give this video a thumbs up if you haven't already. And I hope that I will see you again on some of my future videos. Be sure to check out this one about moving to Alaska and the things that you should know. And then if you're curious about my entire playlist, it's right here. Until next time, please stay safe and take care. And thanks for watching.